These are all 12 of the skills in Skyblock, and what if I told you that I spent 4,000 hours maxing them out? I've been grinding towards this ever since I first joined Skyblock, and in this video I go through my journey to acquire every max level skill. So, sit back, subscribe if you like the editing, and now, let's begin. It all started with mining, my first level 60 skill. Nowadays, it's one of the best and most consistent money-making methods in the game, but when I first started, it was nowhere near close. I got my first few levels like every other player, in the deep caverns mining for collections and skills. But once I had access to the dwarven mines, I was not only making a decent amount of money, but with Mithril giving close to 80 mining XP per, and commissions giving close to 10k, I was quickly climbing to mining 50. All of this changed, however, with the release of the Crystal Hollows, because now mining was not only more efficient, but extremely broken for money. You see, this update released 7 new custom ores, called gemstones, and while these could only sell for 8 coins on release, with a high amount of mining fortune and a new stat called Pristine, instead of getting 1 gemstone for every block you break, you would get over 2,000, making it possible to earn upwards of 60 million coins an hour before this was eventually nerfed in half. However, after the nerf, when people sold their armor sets in a panic, I immediately spent my entire life savings buying 4 pieces of Divin armor, the best armor set in the game for mining, and once I reached Heart of the Mountain 6, I bought a gemstone gauntlet. An insane pickaxe for its price that could mine every single gemstone. I then spent over 100 hours in the Crystal Hollows, up in the mines of Divin mining jade for hours on end in order to afford upgrades. After a while, I upgraded the flawless gemstones in my armor to perfect, for more fortune and mining speed, and pretty soon I'd even outgrown my gemstone gauntlet, switching to a titanium drill 655 with the money I'd made from the countless mining fiestas I had participated in. With this, my rates improved from 13 to 15 million coins an hour, and after I purchased an epic Scatha with a quick claw, my rates were upped to 17.5 million coins an hour. And of course, I ended up hitting mining 60 somewhere along this journey. Safe to say that this skill made me extremely rich, as in my countless hours of mining I amassed over 900 million gemstone collection, translating to almost 3 billion coins. Next up is combat. However, since there are so many ways that I got combat XP, I never tracked down what I did to reach level 60. But I do know that a major portion of my combat XP came from ghost grinding, an extremely effective way to level up combat, but only if you can kill them efficiently. Killing a ghost will give you 100 base combat XP per, but also have a million health and deal a ton of damage that ignores all defense. However, since you can kill thousands of ghosts in an hour, and you can increase the 100 combat XP to over 250 with the use of potions and other modifiers, ghost grinding with the right setup can produce one of the highest amounts of combat XP in the game. And, along my grind, I obtained not just a bunch of combat XP, but also a lot of money. Ghosts have a chance of dropping sorrows, and along with the raw coins from the scavenger enchant and the occasional 1 million coin drops, I could make a consistent 15 to 20 million coins an hour with my setup. Speaking of which, ghost grinding has had many different setups over the years. Originally, I used 3/4 Necron armor and a Tarantula helmet, combined with a Soul Whip for effective kills and a Mithril Golem for a cheap source of extra damage. But over time the meta evolved, and I ended my ghost grinding journey using a Dark Claymore and Crimson armor for the strength and its swipe ability, which doubled my damage and let me focus on getting higher amount of magic find for more drops. In total, I have a whopping 290,000 ghost kills, an insane amount as even the bestiary amount stops at 250,000. This also means that just from ghosts themselves, I obtained enough combat XP to go from level 0 all the way to level 60. And while I certainly didn't do this exactly, this shows a little bit about how I maxed out combat. At the end of this video, I'll leave a playlist of videos I made that go more in detail about each skill, but for now, let's talk about fishing. Many people call it one of the worst skills in Skyblock, but honestly, I didn't really mind the grind. The only part of fishing that was painful was early game, when I didn't have the requirements to fish up sharks or yetis, but once I hit fishing 24, I had access to fishing festivals. These appeared every time the Mayor Marina came into office, and fishing festivals enabled me to catch sharks, with the best one, the Great White Shark, giving a decent amount of fishing XP. And this event, even with my garbage gear, was also really profitable, and wasn't the only fishing event that I would abuse for money and XP. Every Skyblock year, Jerry's Workshop appeared, which allowed me to winter fish. And the best sea creature that you could fish up in this was the Yeti sea creature, which very rarely had a chance of dropping an epic and a legendary baby Yeti pet, which at the time sold for 15 to 30 million coins. I also just so happened to drop a legendary one on my first ever kill. The last event was Spooky Fishing, available 1 hour before, after, and during each Spooky Festival. Not only were there many drops that sold for a lot of coins, like deep sea orbs and werewolf skin, but there were a lot of sea creatures that gave tons of fishing XP, like Grim Reapers and the Phantom Fisherman. And by fishing only during these events, I managed to get all the way up to fishing level 35. But then, out of nowhere, the Crystal Hollows was released and introduced lava fishing, most importantly, worm fishing. Worms had a 25% base chance to drop a worm membrane, an important item for crafting Divine Armor, which at the time was extremely expensive. Knowing this, I spent tens of hours worm fishing in the Crystal Hollows for worm membranes, killing over 4,000 worms in the process with an estimated profit of over 150 million coins and 9 million coins an hour, which was pretty good at the time for it being fishing. At this point, with all of these sources of fishing XP, I was fishing 39, but it was clear that it would take a long time for me to reach fishing 50. But a couple months later, the admins released the Crimson Isles. This was a long-awaited combat update that brought a whole new lava fishing revamp to the game. There were now sea creatures with 100 million health that dropped RNGs worth 100 million coins and gave 10,000 XP per. Using the new Thunder Armor and an Inferno Rod, I made hundreds of millions of coins from the drops, while also gaining around 1.9 million fishing XP per hour, easily reaching level 50 in a matter of a week after I had started grinding. Alright, it's time for farming. Love it or hate it, it's one of the most known Skyblock skills purely because of how boring it is. I originally started before the garden had even released, when the only farming equipment needed was a pair of rancher's boots, a level 100 legendary elephant pet, and a good farming tool. I chose to farm sugarcane, as it took the least amount of effort to farm and gave a decent amount of farming XP and money. I would then spend around 125 hours on and off farming sugarcane, making a measly 4 million coins an hour and averaging only around 500,000 farming XP per hour too. At farming 43, I realized that it would take way too long to reach farming 60 this way, instead of 29 tier 12 melon minions for money, but most importantly, the farming XP it would give me if I waited for Derpy, which increased all skill XP by 50%. With this, I was able to easily get enough farming XP for not just farming 50, but farming 54. However, after farming 50, you need a gold medal in every crop to level up, and the only ones I had were for sugarcane and netherwort. I would need 8 more gold medals from farming contests, but I also wasn't willing to spend hours building a farm for them, and stayed at farming 52 for a very long time. Then, the garden update happened, and changed everything I knew about farming. Immediately, I was making 10 million coins an hour with a terrible setup, but that didn't matter since I was spending millions of coins serving visitors, which gave garden XP, a lot of farming XP, and also very rarely extremely expensive rewards. The only thing was, now I needed to spend close to 1 billion coins in order to obtain the gold medals I needed. But I wasn't about to let this stop me from maxing every skill, so I went all out, buying 4 pieces of Fermento, each costing around 40 million coins. Then on top of that, I reforged every armor piece with the Overgrown Grass Reforged Stone. This would give me a little bit more farming fortune, but at the cost of 100 million coins per reforged stone. Lastly, I spent over 200 million coins upgrading my farming tools and over 100 million coins buying a mushroom cow pet with a Minos relic. This would give me the most farming fortune, and hopefully with this setup I could get a bunch of gold medals. And it was working. I was finally able to reach gold in every single contest, and slowly but surely maxed out my farming level. That is until I tried getting the cactus gold medal. No matter what I tried, I could never get gold in a cactus contest. Even after borrowing a racing helmet and fully upgrading my cactus knife, I still couldn't get it done. So this goal of farming 60 kinda just stayed at farming 59 for a while. But out of nowhere, about a month later, gold medals were nerfed to be given to everyone in the top 10% of a farming contest, when previously it was top 5%. So I got to work. First collecting a bunch of pests. These would give me a bonus 200 farming fortune for 30 minutes. And this little update to the game proved to be all I needed to get the gold medal, as even after missing the first 2 minutes of the cacti contest, I was still able to secure the gold position and exchange the last medal I needed for farming 60. But before I get to the worst skill of them all, let me talk about some of the quick ones. First of all was Taming. I easily got this passively throughout my grind, as all I needed to gain Taming XP was to have a pet equipped while farming skill XP. And once the Taming update came out and increased the skill cap to level 60, it was just a matter of spending a couple 100 million coins on pets to sacrifice to George. And Enchanting, just like Taming, was extremely easy to obtain, since you could get upwards of 3 million Enchanting XP per day from the experimentation table. This table had a set of minigames, with the most important one being a matching game, where you can obtain extremely rare tier 7 enchants like Looting 5 and Protection 5, along with a ton of Enchanting XP. And by doing this every single day, I was able to hit Enchanting 60 in no time at all, while also gaining a ton of money from all of the rare books I got. Lastly was Alchemy, which was extremely quick as well. I spent around 30 million coins in addition to the 2 stacks of enchanted sugarcane I farmed to brew a ton of speed potions. This would give me enough Alchemy XP to reach level 50, and since I did this during Derpy, it wasn't even that bad, taking about an hour to max out. But now it's time for Foraging, by far the worst skill in Skyblock, taking over 100 hours to max out. This doesn't sound that bad compared to the amount of time spent on other skills, like farming, but you see, the last Foraging update was 3 years ago, and unlike the other skills which have at least some interesting mechanics, foraging has none of that. So the only ways to max this skill is by chopping wood for 100 hours or spending 6 billion coins on Jerry boxes. Knowing I would never be able to afford the Jerry box route, I took to mindlessly farming dark oak in the park, averaging around 600,000 XP per hour. During this time, I used a tree capitator, which could break 25 logs a hit, and then with that, a legendary ocelot for 30% more skill XP, and a monkey pet to reduce the cooldown of the tree capitator by 1 second. After around 10 hours of this, I had already started to lose my mind. There was absolutely no way I could do another hour of Argoon with Nons and staring at dark oak wood. So, with the help of a friend, I set up this absolute monstrosity, a foraging farm I could make on my island with the use of 31 tier 11 foraging minions. The rates would only be around 400 to 500,000 XP per hour, but it was much better than park foraging since all I needed to do was hold down left click. This, however, would not be cheap, as even though the farm itself took less than 100,000 coins to make, the minions would be extremely expensive. The minions themselves are pretty cheap, but it's the upgrades that cost extreme amounts of money. In the end, for the fuel, I put a stack of foul flesh in each minion. This would increase the speed of them by 90%, and for the upgrade slots, I put in 2 flycatchers. This would cost me 1.5 billion coins, but for the 40% extra minion speed, it was worth it, as Derpy, the savior of this video, was to be elected in a couple days. This was the only motivation behind my Foraging 50 grind, and after setting everything up, I was getting foraging levels moderately quickly, and by the end of Derpy, even after sitting in the machine 5+ hours per day, I was still only foraging level 42, which means I would still have another 40+ hours of foraging to hit level 50. So I decided to do what no man should ever do, go back to manual foraging. But this time I did things a little bit differently. I created another farm on my island, with droppers shooting out dark oak saplings and enchanted bone meal. After placing the dark oak saplings and using the enchanted bone meal to instantly grow my tree, I could use the tree capitator to instantly break it down. And after a couple tests, this was over twice as efficient as a semi-AFK farm, at over 850,000 XP per hour. But it would still take a really long time to reach Foraging 50 this way, around 27 hours. However, this was a lot less time, so I got to work, island foraging whenever I had free time and semi-AFK foraging whenever my hands started to hurt. This became my life for an entire week, and even after all of that, I was still only level foraging 45. At one point in time, I even bought an Annihilation Cloak, 300 million coins for 0.1 more foraging XP per log, which truly showed how insane I had become. And soon, I was foraging level 47, then foraging level 49, until finally it was time to max every skill in Skyblock. Alright, so you're probably not used to me talking like this for the video, but as you can see, I'm very close to Foraging 50, which would mean maxing every skill besides social, which we don't count because it doesn't do anything. But anyways, it should be maybe another 20 minutes in this farm, but yeah, I'll cut back when we're close again. This is so nice to be able to be finished with. Alright, any second now, I should hit the 4 million foraging XP I need, and then it's all over. Alright, here we go. This should be the second to last one. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Alright, what? Alright, this should be it. There we go! No way! Holy cow. That is very nice to see. This right here, Foraging 50, is probably the worst grind in all of Skyblock, as any Skyblock player will tell you. So yeah, pretty big achievement. And now, I'm out of here. Also guys, before you go, if you've made it this far, congratulations. That means you'll probably like this video right here too, Every Slayer, the second hardest achievement in Skyblock, or a separate video where I max the Catacombs, which I didn't include in this video because I made a video about it right here.